Welcome to Season 2, Episode 18 of the Bulls Recap Podcast. I'm Joe Colley, the Chicago Sun-Times. You can obviously follow me in the Sun-Times. You can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, at @JColleyHoops. And I am fresh off the drive to and from Indianapolis in one day. That was great. Let's start there with the Indiana game, because that's a good starting point. Back in the preseason, Indiana was the model that we were told that the Bulls are or chasing. And the point was, in their eyes, Halliburton, Josh Giddey, modest ceiling, Siakam. That's fine on paper in fairy tale land. But there's a reality yesterday, too, or Wednesday night. Kobe White, who was arguably the best player on the team scoring-wise, has a chance to end the Pacers jinx that's been going on all year. Pacers have 12 wins. 3 of them are against the Bulls. But the Bulls are the Pacers, according to the front office. Kobe has a chance to win it. Feels like he has his guy beat. Tries that right-handed layup, remembers his arms are very short, which in the combine, that's what they measured. He does not have long arms. He is not Patrick Williams, who can tie his shoes. Modest is another short-arm guy, but Kobe is a short-arm guy. It gets blocked. Pacers end up winning. Kobe talks about it after. We'll go to that first.
They just had our number all year. Thought tonight we were finally getting over him in terms of with them, but we didn't. So I think we play him again, so we'll have another opportunity, but we just let this one slip away.
You guys have been so good in clutch opportunities for most of the season. What do you feel like was different tonight in terms of just kind of maybe how you guys were handling or approaching those clutch moments?
I think they were solid. We ran the plays, down the stretch. We executed well. Got to the open three. I got downhill. Next one made a good block. I tried to go around him and finish, but he made a good block. Sometimes, in the clutch games, you just don't fall your way. They hit some tough shots. Them hard-headed, tough step back. Medium, heavily contested. I think we fouled too much, too, as well, especially down the stretch in that fourth quarter. I think, that didn't lose us the game. I think that cumulative of, that fourth quarter, we made a run. Like I said, you on the road, you got to figure out how to put teams away. Then you let the crowd get into it. We do it to teams when we had the UC. We did it to Boston. They was up. Kind of like our crowd got us going. We started hitting shots. Then we come back and then we make a late push and then we end up winning the game. So just got to figure out, especially when the road, it's just when you up by double digits in the fourth, just put teams away.
So there you go. Honest about things. I like that about him, about Kobe. And I'm not even saying Kobe is not a good piece. I think Kobe is a really good piece. He's just not a piece for the Bulls. When you look at the record with Kobe, without Kobe, they're a 500 team overall. With Kobe, without Kobe, they're a 500 team. This is just what they are. Well, the game in Indiana should scream to the front office that you are not the Pacers and you need change. Not change just to change. You need change to get out of this mud. When you look at the Bulls, and we talked to Billy Donovan, the coach Billy Donovan after the game about this, 2 losses to Charlotte, 3 to the Pacers, I think 2 to Milwaukee, which is below them. Pelicans have been a problem for them. I'm trying to think of some other. They beat Washington, but just bottom feeder after bottom feeder. They're competing against good teams. They kind of get up for those teams. But that's what a mediocre team is. That's what a 500 team is. So obviously this is more about what's coming up for the Bulls, and what's coming up is the trade deadline in a week. What are the scenarios that are realistic? Giannis Antetokounmpo is obviously now available. That is not realistic. What is realistic that we know, that the entire beat knows and that the Bulls have acknowledged, this is about 2 pieces right now. Unless something unforeseen happens, 2 pieces, Josh Giddey and Modest Buzelis. That's it. Everything else is movable. Doesn't mean it's going to be moved, but everything else is movable. So knowing that, and knowing that you have 6 for sure pending free agents, 7 if you count Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, they have to make a decision on, but they have a year to do that if they choose to do that. But you have Kobe, you have Io, you have Vooch, you have Kevin Herter, you have Zach Collins, you have Javon Carter. Javon Carter's not coming back. Javon Carter will only be moved if he's in a package. There is nobody that's saying, hey, we'll just take Javon Carter to add some shooting and you take X. That is not, considering 21 teams are in or up against the apron, there's just not a lot of flexibility where he's just a vanity item. So take him out the books. The market on Vooch, I can tell you the market on Vooch is basically null and void. This is not only from people I've talked to, this is the feeling coming from Vooch's camp. If there is a Vooch scenario out there, it is the one that had presented itself last year until they were able to get into the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes, and that's Golden State decides that they are viable without Jimmy Butler the rest of the year, which I don't know if they're going to decide that. Quentin Post and Al Horford have not worked out for them. Their hope was they would cover up that spot with those two. Neither one of those two have covered up the spot. So Mike Dunleavy, the former Bull and now vice president of basketball operations, has to ask himself, if we go and get Vucevic for Kuminga, the contracts work because they can't bring in more of a money contract, and Kuminga is slightly more than Vooch. So they would be bringing in less money with Vooch. Kuminga, who is basically refusing to play now and coming up with phantom injuries, he's done there. He's checked out. So that trade is a possibility if they actually really feel with Curry, we have to try taking one more swing with his age, with Draymond, that we got one more swing in us. I don't know if they're going to come to that conclusion. That's the only way that Vooch gets moved as is right now. If Giannis gets moved, the dominoes could be all across the league. But let's just take that out for right now. Io's a viable trade option. I tend to lean that they would try pushing Kobe White on a team before Io. I think they're going to try to re-sign Io. That's the feeling around the Bulls. Kevin Herter, he would be in a package. He is not a straight-up deal, and I think they're going to try re-signing Kevin Herter. Zach Collins is hurt right now. He's off the table. We got an update on him in case anyone cares. It's basically turf toe. Doesn't need surgery, but it's at least 2 more weeks in the walking boot. He comes out of that. They have to make sure the calves are firing, the thighs are firing, hamstrings are all good. He's got to be reconditioned. That's probably another 2 weeks. Best case scenario, end of February, he's back. Best case scenario. The 2 pieces that are signed that are now intriguing to other teams, I don't know if the Bulls want to move off of them. Obviously, Trey Jones and Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith's stock is right now, not only with the Bulls because of the way he's playing, but league-wide. He's a cheap contract. He's signed this year and next year, and he's playing really well. But that might be a piece the Bulls want to keep, again, unless something major comes down the line. But realistically, you're talking about Vooch, if one team wants to budge, Kobe, maybe Io, but Io is something that they want to keep. Everyone else is just a package piece or probably staying put, and they'll revisit them in July. That's the reality right now with a week left. Again, the beautiful part of the NBA trade deadline, everything is fluid. Giannis is this huge boulder that has probably 5 or 6 teams intrigued in trying to move that boulder and obtain him. And it's basically a bidding war between those 5 or 6 teams, whether that's the Knicks, the Spurs, however you want to look at it. Could the Bulls be in there because of the expiring contracts? Absolutely. But the timeline of what they want does not fit. And from the sounds of it and the way they're talking, that is not the plan. That is a shortcut. And we are a no shortcut team, as Arturis will tell you all. So as the deadline comes, that's the Bulls part of it. What would they be looking for? Okay, they're looking for pieces to go with Modest and Josh Giddey, and they're looking for positional size. They're looking for all of a sudden, big bodies. They feel like Josh Giddey has a positional size advantage over most guards, which he does. I don't know how many times this year. There's at least been a handful of times where they've needed big baskets in crunch time, and they've been a good crunch time team before last night. They've been a good in the clutch team, and they go in the post to Josh, and it's just a bad matchup 95% of the time because he's just tough, and he's got a little float game, a little post game. So they like that, and they like Modest as a 3. So what you're looking to add is a 4, probably a future 5, or if it's and they feel like Jalen Smith is a 4. Whether it's a healthy Zach Collins, they stay with Vooch rest of this year, whatever it is. They just want positional size. That's why I think somebody like Kobe White is a flexible move for them. So that's the person to keep an eye on. They're looking for positional size. The piece that I think they would most be willing to move is Kobe White. What is the market on Kobe White right now? Well, kind of quiet. Again, we are trapped behind this Giannis boulder. Before information started leaking the last couple of days that Milwaukee is now fielding trade requests for Giannis, I would say there were probably 2 to 3 teams that were really interested in Kobe. There just what hasn't been a match. The Bulls want Tari Eason from Houston. They've been told no. Houston really covets him. Minnesota has been willing to, I think, play a little ball with them, with Dillingham or Terrence Shannon Jr., whatever the combination is. And I think that's a wait and see. Ideally, Kobe White, I think, would be great with Minnesota. I think he'd be great with Houston because Kobe shouldn't be your number 1 or number 2, but he's a hell of a number 3 option. And the nice thing is when you have a star like Anthony Edwards who has so much attention brought to him, especially late in games, Kobe is a great drive and kick guy as far as Ant driving and kicking to Kobe. So, and those two could be on the ball, off the ball. They're both kind of combo guards. It would really do a lot for Minnesota. I think Minnesota is the team where it feels like it fits the most. Houston, it would definitely work, but there's just not that kind of synergy guard between the guards that there would between Kobe and Ant. So those are the 2 teams to keep an eye on, but I don't know if they're going to come to a match or to an agreement. But again, this is all smoke and mirrors until the trade deadline comes. So the other scenario to keep in mind is the Bulls' mindset could very well be resting a lot on this financial flexibility. So be prepared as a Bulls fan that next week comes and goes, nothing is done, and the real action comes this summer. And it won't be just necessarily the days of going out and saying, well, we have $71 million in cap room and give us a list of all the top free agents because all these guys have positioned themselves to be free agents. And we're just going to go and spend. And those days are gone. Those days are gone. First of all, teams don't let their best players get to free agency now. Even if it's a sign and trade, it's still going to be a deal that they can benefit from. The apron, the new CBA has taken those days away where you put yourself in a good financial situation because this free agent class is really good. This free agent class coming up is doo-doo, and it doesn't work that way anymore because it's about sign and trade. So take that mindset off the table. Here's where you need to focus your mind. If you're a Bulls fan, call up the list of restricted free agents. This is where Arturas is going to be a player. This is his best chance to build this team. I'm trying to think of some other guys that are interesting. Matherin from Indiana. I just went over the list yesterday. And the restricted free agent class is very, very interesting. But you bid, team gets a chance to match. Remember, there's 21 teams that are in the apron or against the apron that can't really match unless they move another piece. So Arturas is going to take advantage of the apron teams that have restricted free agents. That's what everyone needs to look out for, and that's what they need to watch. Will that make Bulls fans happy if next week comes and goes and nothing is done? No, and they shouldn't be. They should not be, because that means you let assets walk away and you held your hand too long. You watch those assets depreciate in your own hand because you fell in love with your own product. So, but that doesn't mean that this build is null and void. Look for restricted free agents in the offseason that they try and bid and at least make teams have to match and mess with their cap more. If that's the plan, that's the plan. Does it excite me? Do I think there is a model that says, yeah, that works? No, I don't. But I think that's what they're going to attempt to do. I do not see them give Kobe away, give Vooch away, who cares, collect second-round assets, give everyone away that you can give away, be bad the rest of this year, just let Modest and Josh do their thing and try getting a high lottery pick, because this lottery class, we've talked about it before on this podcast, 3 dudes at the top, AJ DeBansa, Cameron Boozer, and Peterson when he's healthy from Kansas. But then you're talking about 4 or 5 guys after that that are really, really pushing that top 3 tier. I think Cooper Flagg class, Knipple, those 2, Cooper Flagg and Knipple, and VJ Edgecombe, maybe. We've seen some good things from him. Ace Bailey, still a wait and see. Dylan Harper when he's healthy. Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple are seismic organizational changers. I'm not saying generational. We throw generational around too much, but those 2 guys change your entire franchise, the entire look of your franchise. They change a lot of things. I don't know if Boozer, DeBansa, or Peterson do that. They're really good, and they're potential all-stars. But like Cooper Flagg, to me, could be a league MVP. But this 26 class goes about 7 or 8 where you're like, that's a dog, that's a dog, that's another dog. We got dogs now. So can the Bulls get involved in that? You'd like to think that would be the mindset. But the only way that I think that's going to happen is if the math fairy smiles upon them and they have some lottery luck, because I don't think that's going to be their mindset, which is a shame, especially when in your own division you see what Detroit's done. You look across the division to the west and you see what San Antonio's done, and both of those teams look like they are there to stay for quite some time. So I don't know. We'll see. The final point of this trade deadline to kind of prep you and prepare you to what to look out for. If Giannis goes, right now the market is pretty quiet. Okay, even before the Giannis stuff started breaking, it was pretty quiet. More so out of it being more of a poker game this year, because there are 21 teams in that or up against that apron. So the maneuvers have to be small. The maneuvers have to be kind of tweaks. If the Giannis thing happens, all bets are off. I'm not saying like last year's trade deadline was crazy. I mean, the Luka stuff, which was done early, was crazy. I don't think it's going to get that crazy. It could. But once that Giannis boulder is lifted, the fountain could just, be prepared for anything. It could be a crazy next week. And maybe Milwaukee doesn't find anything for Giannis and they look to trade him in the offseason. That's very viable. That has to be in play. But look, this is why the beginning of February before the All-Star break is the greatest time in the NBA, because of and it has nothing to do with the games. It has to do with the drama off the court. Guys send through back channels. I want to be here. I want to do this. And that carries into the All-Star game where guys are, hey, we should try teaming this. And not as much as it used to be, but it's still out there. It still happens. So if you're a Bulls fan, I would be, excited's not the word. Optimistic's not the word. I would be kind of neutral, prepared for something to happen, but in the back of your mind, ready to take a deep breath, not throw something through a TV, not pull anything off a wall if things are quiet, and realize that there is a second part to this, and that comes in July, and it has nothing to do with the trade market. It has to do with the restricted free agency. So keep an eye on that. their plan is to try and take advantage of that and push opposing teams to the limit. Is that a plan? It seems kind of reactionary to me. Doesn't seem like, hey, we're dictating this and this. It seems kind of like you're a raccoon. You are skirmishing through other people's garbage and making them have to go out and put a better cover on the garbage. So the Bulls are raccoons right now. That's probably the best way to sum it up. So, all right, let's go to the island, Kali Island, the rant. I'm going to pull journalist out of this. I'm going to step back and put my fan pants on and pretend I'm a fan of the Bulls. I just said be prepared that nothing gets done. And I mean it. Be prepared if nothing gets done. I think probably the most vitriol Bulls fans got was it was 2 years ago when they didn't do anything. This might even be worse because this is year 4 of just monotonous, stuck in the mud, and you have a front office that is trying to ram this car into a wall of this plan and feels like, why is this wall not moving? Well, because it's a wall and you are not moving it. I think the anger and the disappointment that Bulls fans will feel, especially if Giannis is moved and there's a lot of activity and you just couldn't get something done, at that point is just an excuse. Because what you cannot do, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to stress this even more, what you cannot do as an NBA team is let talent walk that you allowed to depreciate in the trade market because you wouldn't move it when it was supposed to be moved. That is sin number 1. Maybe 1B. 1A, you got to hit when you have a lottery pick. You got to hit on it, especially if it's a deep draft. They've already committed sin A. This 25 class is balling out, except one guy in the lottery, Noah Senge. He's hurt. But before that, he was really good in the G League. Whoopee! So they've already committed that sin. You cannot just say, we couldn't get anything done with Kobe on the trade market. We tried to re-sign him. He wanted something bigger because if they don't trade him, be prepared that they might try and re-sign him and just say, okay, we're just going to keep this build out to 10 deep and have another lottery pick. So we're going to add another piece to the crap. And that's a scenario. So if nothing happens, be prepared for this thing to really go off the tracks of a lot of these same guys being back next year. So if you have a Kobe White jersey and he's not traded in the next week, you might be able to hold on to that Kobe White jersey for a couple more years because they will try and re-sign him. They'll try giving him a cheap team-friendly deal like they got Giddey, $100 million, 4 years, and then they'll feel good about themselves like they tricked the system. Meanwhile, you look in the standings and the system is telling you you didn't trick shit. You didn't do anything. You are still the same monotonous, mediocre Bulls digging through garbage. All right, let's go to the list. 3 biggest names I think could be moved. We'll go from 3 to 2 to 1. These are the 3 biggest. Cat. Everyone knows how I feel about the Pussycat. Karl Anthony Towns played his best basketball with heart, maybe not statistically, under Tom Thibodeau. The Knicks fans already hate him now that Tibbs is gone. They want him out of there. The Knicks are very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from night to night. They're supposed to be the best team in the East. They are now currently sitting 3rd. And if they are not in the Eastern Conference Finals, this is an epic failure by their ownership and front office. If they trade Cat and they get a big deal for Cat, however, their fortunes could change. They know that. I think Cat, people that know Cat, there's a lot of people on the outside that don't know Cat, but people that know Cat and explain Cat to you, his act wears thin really quick. When you have a great coach that covers up Cat and his, I don't want to say intricacies. I don't even know how to explain them. he's not a foxhole guy. He pretends to be. He's not a foxhole guy. And guys that are foxhole guys sniff that out right away. The Knicks have a lot of foxhole guys. That was sniffed out right away. Tibbs was able to cover that up. So, catch number 3. Number 2, I do think the Anthony Davis thing is real. That's been reported several times. He's hurt right now, but he is the ultimate chessboard piece for a team to pull out for the playoffs. It would have to be kind of the right team. Miami, a team like that, where it's like Dallas is just trying to get rid of him because of the contract, and Dallas now smartly has Cooper Flagg and is going to build around him. And then obviously with Kyrie Irving coming back, they have to make a decision there. But for them, AD is the ultimate kind of stash. You remember back in the day when teams would draft Euros and stash them? Now all the Euros are coming over and playing because of NIL, but used to draft and stash. He is a trade and stash. And to be able to unleash him healthy, say what you want. Yes, he is Mr. Glass. Yes, he should be bubble wrapped. Yes, he is very fragile. But when he's on, both ends of the floor change instantly because of that dude. So I do think there is a chance something could be done where he becomes a trade-in stash. So I have him number 2, and number 1 is obviously Giannis. Giannis is the lottery ticket to win you a championship this year, but it has to be, the window is now. You have to be in this is now window. The Spurs, if the Spurs could get him, and whether they have to give away, whether it's, I don't know if, I'm sure they probably want to keep Castle, but if they have to give away almost everything else for Giannis, besides obviously Wemby, whether it's Fox, whatever it is, I think they'd be willing to do that. Maybe they have to throw in Dylan Harper. I mean, obviously, but they have pieces, they have draft capital, and they've owned OKC this year. So I think the Spurs would be the most intriguing place for him. But we'll see. I mean, that's a lot of money, and a lot of young talent has to go Milwaukee's way for them to be able to explain this away. But again, Luka got traded last year, so anything is possible. So we'll see. Look, this is a fun week. I kind of love this week. Not as a Bulls fan, I wouldn't love this week because this could become very disappointing. But as an NBA fan, this is fun, man. This is fun. So next week we're going to have probably a preview show before the trade deadline. And then obviously the trade deadline is on February 5th. We'll hopefully have a live show because the Bulls did something and you're excited about it. Or it'll be a live show where I just look into the camera and shake my head and laugh at you because nothing was done, which means some beach time for the kid come mid-April. So until then, I got next.